Good morning. I thought today it would be fun / interesting or helpful to some of you that I show you how I plan things. Now, for those much younger than I am, doing things this way will come as a complete shock and like, oh, I never thought of doing it that way because you've been brought up in the digital age. Those that are my age and older, that's 54, will go, oh, yes, just, this is a normal way of planning things out. So I like to look at the big picture of whatever I'm working on. So for the sake of this video, we're going to choose lipedema. But in the past, I have done this for thyroid disease. I've done this for weight loss. I've done this for many different things, whatever I happen to be. I've done this with my husband for planning our overseas retirement. I've done this for planning our budgeting goals. This is honestly the easiest way to see the big picture and then to break it down into what you need to do. So I've got my cuppa. Now, I suggest if you want to follow along that you go get yourself some art paper. So I've got a massive A3 art book here, some texters, as we call them in Australia, or markers, I think you might call them in America. Not sure what you call them in the UK or anywhere else, but anyway, texters is our usual word for them. How do I go about figuring out what I need to do next? I don't think we should ever try and look for the root cause of something. I don't think we should ever try and look at the big, like, what is the answer? There is no one answer for any of us, okay? It's about pulling apart the jigsaw puzzles and figuring it out as you go along. It's part of the journey, right, as being human. So here's where I start, okay? The first thing I do in whatever colour tickles my fancy, we're going with pink, is I might have a page that is what I know, okay? What I know. Now this will be what I know about myself, and I might pick another colour. Let's pick another colour. So this might be, what do I know? I know that I have lipedema, undiagnosed. Okay, I know I have hypothyroidism, which is caused by Hashimoto's, which is in remission. Okay, so I reversed my Hashimoto's antibodies when I was in college, okay? But I still have a low thyroid after having taken thyroid medication for 30 plus years. Your thyroid gets lazy. So I know I have hypothyroidism and I take medication for that at this point in time. What else do I know? I know I have had a double knee replacement. I know I live in a hot environment. That might seem weird, but when you look at the big picture as you go along, you'll understand why that makes sense. Or why it's relevant to write it down. I live in a hot environment. Okay, I live with my husband, so no kids live at home any longer. I work from home. So all these things are really relevant to my big picture that is lipedema and how I'm going to address it. I know my latest blood results, which have high cholesterol. My TSH is low, which actually means I have to reduce my thyroid medication. I'm taking too much. Platelets were low. My ALT, which is your liver scores that tell you if you're going into cirrhosis, which for me normally is very low. If you've followed me for a long time, you'll know that I do coffee enemas, which helps the liver to process all the things. However, What's happened recently that I would say is tied up with the platelets and the ALT score is I have a rotator cuff injury, and muscular injuries and the pain medication that I need to take because I've had a gastric sleeve surgery. I can't take normal anti-inflammatories. So those things combined have likely contributed to the low platelets and the high ALT scores. So that will probably iron itself out. Every plan I do for myself, particularly when it's health related, I give it a 3-month. It's a 3-month plan. So in 3 months, I will have blood tests done again and check those things to see what's happening with them, whether or not my plan has worked, all that kind of thing. All right, so what else do I know? I would put on here my stats, meaning my weight, my measurements, anything like that. You would write down, and you're not taking this from a perspective of, oh, I'm such a bad person, I've put on weight, or, you know, I'm this, that, and the other. No, this is just an inventory of who you are and where you're at this point in time. I would write down my emotional status. Am I struggling with anxiety? Am I struggling with depression at the moment? Am I not feeling myself? I would also write down any traumas or stresses I'm currently going through, because that all impacts any kind of disease. I am open to any kind of diet or protocol. I never used to be. I was the plant-based queen and thought that was the answer to everything. But then I started learning about lipedema and discovered, no, it's not the answer to everything. Everybody is different. So now I've learned that I'm open to completely changing my dietary regime. I also understand that we may need different kinds of diets at different points in our life. I would love to be that person that's like, I've had weight loss surgery, I never have to think about food again, I just eat less. Couldn't be further from the truth. I need to always be interested or specific around what I eat because of the inflammation involved in lipedema and thyroid disease for that matter, and for not letting it progress out of hand. That's the thing with lipedema. You can't reverse it, no matter what people say online. You can't reverse lipedema that we know of yet. However, you can stop it from progressing, and you can make life easier for yourself and reduce the inflammation and the pain that's involved with this issue. So because of that, I'm open to any protocol. If right now I'm eating carnivore, if when I do my research I find somebody who says, oh, you need to be eating this way, this is the latest research, I am open to trying it, because the end result for me is how I feel every day. It's not, oh no, but this is what I believe, this is what I've learned. You've got to throw out the window what you know, what you believe, and what you've learned, because that could be completely opposite to what you should be doing for whatever your issues are. So just be open. I'm open to any changes. We might need a different dietary protocol depending on where prior to menopause. See, that's something that's, I'm assuming I am post-menopause at 54. Now I say that assuming because I had a hysterectomy when I was 42, I think it was, and I've never gone through menopause that I know of. Certainly had never had the symptoms. I have had blood tests where my doctor has said, oh, you're in menopause. And I've gone, okay. But menopause to you and I, to the average person, isn't the blood test. Menopause to the most of society is hot flashes, feeling crappy, tiredness, stiffness, pain, aches, all of that kind of thing. I didn't get that. I haven't had that. And that's because I've known from my studies that when you go through menopause, you don't actually stop making hormones. Your adrenals take over. And if your adrenals are too busy dealing with stress and traumas and a life that is not ideal, then making reproductive hormones or estrogens is just not high on its list of priorities. So anytime you have really bad menopause symptoms, check your stress. Bottom line, that's what it is. So I am post-menopause, so that also makes a difference. So I don't have high hormones running around in my body, but I have got thyroid disease, therefore my hormones are out. Not a fan of exercise. Oops, wrong side. But will do it if I have to. Okay? You need to know these things about yourself. Before you make an unrealistic plan, you've got to know what you are going to be willing to do and what you're not willing to do. This is so important. I find it really weird when you go to, and I did this prior to becoming a naturopath myself, I would go to naturopaths and they would list out this big, long, convoluted plan that is the perfect plan that anyone that followed it would be in perfect health for sure. However, when you've got any kind of chronic disease, odds are you're too tired, you're too fatigued, your brain, your motivation, the inspiration to do it is just not there. So when you're saying what you know about yourself and where you're at right now, be honest. You're the only one reading this. What are you willing to do? What are you honestly willing to do to move forward? I think it's really a big mistake to write down, oh yes, let's walk 10 kilometers or 5 miles a day. Let's do this, let's do that. When in the back of your head, you're going, oh, yeah, that's never going to happen. This is for you. So write down what you know about yourself. And I'm a big proponent of knowing yourself. If you don't know yourself, you don't know what you can possibly do to move forward with any disease. Right. So there's lots more things that I probably think of, but what I do is, that's what I know. As I think of things, because when you're doing stuff like this, as you think of things, let me add this to that, right? So the next thing is, what are my options? If you want to work on something, then you need to be obsessed with learning about it. So when I went to college at 40 to become a naturopath, clinical nutritionist and herbalist, I pinned everything on thyroid disease because that's what I knew I had at the time. I didn't know about lipedema. So everything that I learned, I pinned to thyroid disease. I was obsessed with it, so it was no surprise after college that I started thyroid school, because so much knowledge that wasn't necessarily all for me, but I just pinned everything I learned to that. So your options when it comes to whatever you're working on, in this case we're talking about lipedema, you've got to get obsessed with watching all the videos. There is some amazing people out there teaching about this. And I've only just started going on this deep dive. You know, there's Catherine Sayo, there's Lipedema Simplified, there's Siobhan Huggins, there's Sturdy Woman, Lipedema Links, I think there's one. There are so many. I say there's so many, but compared to other things like thyroid disease, there's actually really not that many. So I have been becoming obsessed with learning what I can, because I learned nothing about lipedema in college. We learned about lymphatics and we probably touched on lymphedema, but not lipedema. So right now I am learning everything I can, not that it's fact, because generally from some people it's from their experience. So this is about my experience. But what I'm doing is I'm getting a lay of the land of kind of everything that's been put out there about lipedema. For example, my options here are, we know we want to reduce inflammation. So got to have an anti-inflammatory diet. Most people recommend keto or carnivore. Okay, so that's an option. But it's got to be an anti-inflammatory diet. So at the very least, you're going to remove processed foods. I also have got the high cholesterol. Now, high cholesterol can be caused by weight loss surgery. There is a subset of patients after weight loss surgery that end up with high cholesterol. I've had that. I have got high cholesterol in the family. My grandmother had high cholesterol, and I eat carnivore. So I've got high cholesterol from that. But my new understanding of how cholesterol works is it's the type of cholesterol that you have, and it's triglycerides that contributes towards the plaquing of the arteries. My triglycerides are extremely low. However, I had a question from one of you recently about what can I do, happy on carnivore, but what can I do to reduce the cholesterol because of insurance. So my insurance isn't looking into my cholesterol, which I'm lucky and grateful for that here in Australia. But I know some of you are looking into that. So what I've decided, one of my options, it's not what I've decided, the plan is the next section. So there is things like berberine has been said to reduce cholesterol. So I could try taking berberine for the 3 months, see what happens. In my case, as well as the cholesterol, I need to take some liver herbs to help reduce the ALT. And the anti-inflammatory diet and any anti-inflammatory practices will also maybe help my rotator cuff injury. So I've got that I want to include in what are my options. So I may want to include massages and physio for my shoulder because that's one of my issues. In fact, I didn't have that written down here. So let's add rotator cuff injury. This is why you keep it all going on one big, and then you just keep going between them all till you have your overview of where you honestly are at right now. Okay, there's no point in me working on my perfect diet when I've lost 60 kilos, my weight seems to be stable. There's nothing much more I can do for my lipedema unless I'm considering surgery. But the things that I would want to work on right now is the shoulder because it's causing me pain, and anything that's causing you pain is inflammation, and inflammation will impact my lipedema and make it worse. In fact, I can already tell you, I don't think you can see, the cuffing on my ankles is always my telltale of whether I'm eating something I shouldn't or whether I'm in inflammation. So I know my body very well because I've watched it for so long. I learned all this with thyroid disease. So now I watch it and go, oh, that cuffing is a lot worse today than it normally is. All right, so back to where I'm at. So with my blood tests, what are my options? So my TSH in my blood test was low, it was 0.01. I need to decrease my thyroid medication, which I've already discussed with my doctor. Okay, so that's something that is an option, is what I need to do. The berberine is my option for the cholesterol, and reducing the inflammation in general will hopefully help the liver and the ALT and the, what was the other thing? Platelets. But the other thing is I've got a few things here which I'm going to add to, which is the herbs, the liver herbs. I will add that to I'm getting ahead of myself. That's the plan. I would want to watch more videos. Watch more videos. I would want to perhaps look at a diagnosis. Is that even possible where I live? Probably not. I live in a small mining town in the northwest of Australia. I don't think the doctors here even know what lipedema is, let alone getting it. So is there a way to get a diagnosis online? Do I really want a diagnosis? Maybe, maybe not. Do I really want that extra thing on my records, my health records, as another disease when it's really obvious what the symptoms are. It's really obvious what I've got. Maybe not. But if I wanted to, that's part of my options. How would I go about that? Would I, try and find an online doctor that will diagnose you online? Would I go to Lipedema Australia and see what they offer? Those sorts of things. So that's another option. Lymphatic health, let's look at that as options. That's rebounding. Can I do that with my knees? Not sure. Yes, I can, but you may not be sure. Skin brushing, compressions, which I've never used or tried. Vibration plate. What else is out there that people say? Grounding mat. I've got a grounding mat. I'm pretty bad at being regular, even though it's sitting right there at the end of the couch and I just have to sit there. In fact, my husband's more regular at it than I am, which is crazy. So that's lymphatic help. That's another option for me. If you thought that paying for liposuction was an option for you, put that down. It may be an option for me in the future. It is not right now. So for the sake of the next 3 months plan, I'm not adding it to my options because it's not going to play out for me in 3 months. So that's what I know about myself. These are my options. What's my plan? Let's look at the plan. Let's make myself more room. Okay, have some more tea. And yes, I'm drinking black tea with fluoride in it. If you don't know that about black tea, it's actually high in fluoride, but I don't drink it very often. It's just every now and again, you feel like a cup of tea, right? And I figure it's what you do 80% of the time that moves the dial in any health. It's not those one-off things that you do or don't do. It's what you do 80% of the time. It's those little things day in, day out that make the difference to your health. I promise you that. All right. So, last thing is my plan. There's nothing like a blank page that is ready to be written with a plan. The first thing I know about plans is that odds are you're not going to follow it. Exactly. Because human beings don't like change. The reason we don't like change is because for us to change a habit we already have, neural pathways in our brain have to, the thing that we're already doing has to dissolve, and the thing that we want to do, a new pathway has to form. But what has to happen that we don't realize is that pathway has to be formed first, and then our body, because it's so smart, it recognizes that, oh, we're not using that old pathway anymore. And then it recycles it into something else because it's like, oh, well, we don't need that. We'll get rid of it. Okay? So the key is the new plan has to happen first. The new habit has to come into play first for your body to then go, oh, we don't need that anymore. New habits take a while to form. So any plan you make that you think is going to be a long-term plan, you are going to stumble. You are going to have moments of, oh, I'm having the slice of bread, or oh, I'm having the veggies, not the meat, or oh, I'm having the meat, not the veggies, whatever your plan is, right? You're going to do what you don't you're going to do what you haven't written down, and that's okay. That's okay. But here's the thing. We've always learned that, oh, we'll start again Monday. Monday's always way away, all right? We start again at the very next meal is when we start again, okay? You stop, you've had, like we've just had Easter, for example. So you have an Easter egg or an Easter hot cross bun, which I did. I immediately felt terrible eating that hot cross bun physically. It doesn't make me feel good. The only thing that felt good was my taste buds. That is it. I could not wait to put some meat in my body after that because it just calms it, it anchors it, it grounds it. It just, oh, it's like a breathe out moment for me. Okay, so that's your thing. When you do your plan, you're going to write in a diary or something or in a book, you're going to take note every day. Here's the thing. No matter what I do each day, whether it's good, bad, against my plan or for my plan or perfectly following my plan, I write it down because then that takes it from being a trigger to being statistics. Okay, so every single day in my diary, I write down my blood sugar, I write down my ketones, I write down my weight. I don't measure myself every day because that just would take too much time, but I might take note of my ankles. What's the cuffing like? I do that, and then I quickly will write down what kind of food I ate. Well, I actually track that in chronometer. Anyway, I can see on any given day why I was feeling bad, what I was doing. You need that to be data, nothing else. It's not an example of your character. It's not an example of your heart and your soul and your legacy to this world. It is just data. And we need to get to the point where if we really want to take care of our bodies and do better and feel better, and this is all about feeling better, because I know how crappy you can feel, how awful you can feel. We have to change it from being, oh, I did this, I'm a bad person, to, oh, this is the data, this is what I'm working on today. You're the scientist, your body is the lab experiment. That's all we're doing, okay? So if the experiment doesn't go according to plan, that's okay. There are so many studies out there where people did not, in the control groups or in the testing groups, did not follow the directions, and that in itself gave the scientists really valuable data, and it's valuable data for you as well. Okay, so my plan for the next 3 months, when I will have another blood test, okay, the first one is to lower my thyroid medication. My doctor has already told me what to lower that to. So that's my first plan. My second plan is to take berberine, and the berberine is for the cholesterol, to see if that makes any difference to lowering my cholesterol while I am following carnivore diet. Liver herbs to help it through whatever raised the ALT. So I've picked Live Protect, it's a bioceuticals, and I always take ThyroCaps, which is a Panaxia product, and I always take ginkgo for my brain. If you've never taken ginkgo for your brain and you have brain fog, get yourself one of these and thank me later, okay? And because I'm on carnivore, I always take vitamin D and K, all right? So that is kind of a must, according to my carnivore doctor. And the thing that I notice, if I'm not taking my vitamin D, because like everyone else, I'm human, I forget. And if I forget too often, because I wish I didn't have to take anything. I was that person that I wished I didn't have to take anything. And so there are times that I'm just like, I'll go a week and I've forgotten to take any of my tablets, except for my thyroid tablet. My hair starts to fall out. Without vitamin D, my hair falls out. So if you have hair fall after weight loss surgery or with thyroid disease or for any other reason, alopecia is an autoimmune disease, try vitamin D. See what happens for you. Because that is a very distinct difference between when I take it and when I don't take it. So my plan is to take these tablets religiously within my realm of what I can do religiously. What else am I going to do? I'm going to try and stick to carnivore more specifically, and carbs under 20 grams. And I say that because even on carnivore, eggs have carbs in them. And I only figured that out by actually tracking it in Chronometer, because I was like, why is there carbs here? I have only eaten eggs and meat today. So there are carbs in that. So I'm going to stick to under 20 grams. And my rule here is going to be, if I want to eat a carb, it's going to be a fruit or a vegetable carb. If you saw my short on a keto wrap, which was only 4 grams of carbs, took me out of ketosis. Okay, even though I was well under my carb level, it took me out of ketosis. So, and you want your ketones for pain relief and fat burning. That's going to be my rule. If I want a carb, I'm going to have a carb, but it's got to be a fruit or a veg, like a whole food carb, and under 20 grams still. I already walk every day. So hubby and I go on a walk every afternoon, or in the mornings if it's his week off, because it's so much cooler. So we walk every day already, but I'm going to add to that rebounding for 10 minutes a day, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't right now. So I'm going to make it an actual part of my plan to do that every day. What else am I going to do? I am going to, once a week, I'm going to have either a massage or physio. Now I can do that because, in fact, I can do that because I have on my What I Know private health insurance, which covers me for massage and physio, and I end up paying about $20 for each of them. Knowing what you've got to work with makes a difference as to what you can put into your plan. Kinesiology. Okay, so I'm a kinesiologist. I do a very woo-woo version of it, which I work with energy. So you could say I'm an energy worker. Most people don't like that. But I learned this particular kind of kinesiology because I can work on myself. It's one of the few forms of kinesiology. In fact, it's the only one that I know of where you can actually work on yourself. So I can do my own balances. So I am going to make sure that I do 2 balances a week on myself. Bottom line, with all of this that I'm doing, I've realized I didn't go, your plan is actually your goal. What is your goal? Is your goal to feel less anxious? Is your goal to feel less pain? Is your goal to feel like you've got a purpose when you wake up? Is your goal to not feel like it's hopeless? Okay, what is your goal? What do you want to feel at the end of your 3-month plan? My goal at the end of this is actually my shoulder. But my goal is also to see if I can address those blood levels. Because I've already dealt with the weight loss, so your goal might be weight loss, to take some of the weight and the heaviness off your lipedema limbs, okay? That might be your goal. Because I had, even though I didn't know I had lipedema till, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess I would have thought, oh, so it's all lipedema weight? I didn't understand it. But now that I've had weight loss surgery, the weight that I've lost is not lipedema weight. I still have that left. I still have the fat pads on my knees and under here. I still have that. So all I'm left with now is the lipedema fat. But what losing weight and all the other weight, because lipedema fat, look, Leslyn Keith and Karen Herbst, these are sort of doctors and people that I follow around this, and I could be really wrong, but my understanding is the lipedema fat actually attracts other fat, kind of like a magnet, whereas lymphedema fat attracts water. I could be really wrong, but that's my understanding. But this is what I mean. I have to learn everything I can about this for me, because nobody else is going to sit down and go, oh, hey, Kylie, let me dig into your whole world and let's see what we can do. Nobody's going to do that for you. Or if they do, you're going to pay handsomely for it. My goal here this week is the inflammation, or this 3 months is the inflammation and getting those blood tests better. Reducing my thyroid medication, again, that's a win for me, because I always thought with the weight loss surgery that I would end up with having thyroid disease for life. But just little bit by little bit, I'm reducing that medication, and I'm hoping that eventually I'll get off it. But I have to keep up on it. I have to keep doing all the things. Has it been the fact that I've changed to carnivore that's improving that? Maybe. I don't know. And I'm open to being wrong. That's the key here. Be open to being wrong, and be open to learning, and be open to being curious and matter of fact about your body and what you're dealing with. We've got to kind of step out of the emotions, which is hard to do. So I would recommend watching a sad movie, or do whatever it is you need to do to make yourself have a good cry, because that resets everything. It's freaking awesome. And then sit down and go, right, what am I working with here? What do I know? What are my options? You might even write, what are your financial options? I have private health. We have a good income. My husband earns a good income, but we are saving everything. So spending money on compressions right now, is it worth it? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to work out for you what is worth the money. I've seen lots of videos where people say, oh, compressions didn't really do anything for me, and other people that swear by it. Is that because of the type of lipedema fat you have? I don't know. More research to do, more videos to watch. Financially, that's a big decision of what, you may not even be able to afford supplements for what you're doing, in which case you're going to have to be even stricter with your food options. And just on your food options, don't discount carnivore because it is seemingly too expensive. It is not, because when I think about how much food I threw away when I was buying fresh produce all the time, insane. I feel better. I do not waste meat. Meat will be the first thing that gets eaten, because you're not wasting that money. Oh yeah, meat's expensive. However, what will I save? Can I afford it for 3 months to see if it saves me money from other perspectives? My goal here for the next 3 months, because I'm assuming my rotator cuff injury will go of its own accord anyway if I'm doing all the right things. So while that is a consideration, and I wouldn't normally have a massage or go to the physio every week, I'm adding that for that reason. My main goal is, how do I lower and alter those blood tests so that they're on track? because everything else was on track. My B12 was great. My vitamin D was great. Honestly, my vitamin D was never great. Vitamin D is a hormone, so it's really important that you take vitamin D. I believe, even if you don't have a thyroid issue, even if you're not on carnivore, vitamin D will never be lost in the mix. We all need it. So my plan, my goal, which you probably can't even read, is to lower my thyroid medication. I know, and we'll test that in 3 months. I'm going to take the berberine, which is in the post. I had to order more, and I use the Panaxia brand for berberine. There's probably lots of great ones. I'm not sure. That's a practitioner brand, so you'll probably have to go through a practitioner to get that. I'm going to stick to 20 grams of carbs a day on carnivore, but if I want to stray, it has to be whole foods, fruit or vegetables, not a processed item. I'm going to continue my walking every day, but I'm going to add 10 minutes of rebounding a day. I'm going to continue with my weekly either massage or physio. And I say continue, I've been going to the physio. I haven't added massage. So I'm going to start adding massage next week. And I'm going to start doing 2 balances a week on myself from a kinesiology perspective. I used to be really good at doing that all the time. And then life takes over and you don't see yourself as a priority anymore. That is how I do things. I hope that you will take something from this and that you will sit down, you will get yourself an art book and some pretty texters and do lots of curiosity exercises on what do you know about yourself. There's probably a million more things I could write down about myself here, and every little thing that I know about myself helps guide me of what will work for me or what I'm willing to try or what the easiest thing that I'm willing to try. Because remember, everything you try will be a new habit and your brain will struggle with forming that new neural pathway, which will be uncomfortable. So finding the easiest options for that is the way to go. Now, let's use massage as an example. You would think, oh, that's an easy option. It costs me $20 here after my private health. Well, no. I could have been doing it for weeks now. Have I done it? No, I have not. It's still not normal for me to think of, oh, I need to book myself a massage because that will be good for me. We are terrible at nurturing ourselves. We are fantastic at nurturing everybody else around us. All of these things, including a massage, seemingly lovely idea, is going to have to form a new neural pathway that it's okay for me to spend $20 on myself getting a nice massage. All right. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. I hope it helped. Let me know how you plan things because, as I said, I'm open to new ideas always. Whatever can help make my health better and live longer and have a better quality of life than I did in the first half of my life, I am willing to try, always. So share with me if you've got other ideas that I'm not considering. Share with everybody else. Because if we don't all share together what our thoughts are, then some of us will just not even think of stuff. Some people are more willing to think of really random ideas. Once some people do it, then other people will go, oh, you know what? I've seen 3 or 4 people do this now and have success. What have I got to lose? And that's what we need to do until the research finds an answer to help us reverse whatever this problem is. And so much has changed even since I started seriously looking into this, which is when I posted my first lipedema video last year sometime, and I've learned so much more since then. Research is happening very slowly, but if we all figure it out together and we all promote it and tell the world we've got this thing, then maybe there'll be a bigger push towards more research and understanding how we can actually reverse this, stop it in its tracks, whatever it is. And I said earlier that this is not reversible. Even if you have liposuction and skin removal surgery, if you continue to eat and have a lifestyle that promotes the production of lipedema fat, it will come back. It will come back. This is not reversible yet. But I always live in la la land of like, why not? Why not? One day, right? In the meantime, we've all got to do the best we can, make a plan, go for 3 months, tweak. Make another plan, go another 3 months. How do I feel? Tweak. I hope this has helped you in some way, shape or form, and that you go away and you sit down and at the very least, write down what you know about yourself.